Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Newswave. Today is Friday, October 30th, 2020. I'm Devin Karp, and here are today's top stories. While students in the university were forced to adjust to a new reality in March due to COVID-19, pass-fail requests were approved with leniency. However, this semester students face more requirements for approved pass-fail classes. The Trinitonian reports that despite little changes in academic, national, and personal stressors, there was only a 2-week extension of the fall 2020 semester's pass-fail course request deadline. And as during normal circumstances, only one class per semester may be permitted as pass-fail, and no class permitted may be a major or minor requirement, nor class used to meet common curriculum or pathways. Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Michael Soto, says that this is because students had time to prepare for the fall semester, and some faculty had complained that students were not up to standards to see if they could pass-fail their prerequisites. Though many faculty and staff believe that the conditions this semester do not require the same amount of leniency given last spring, junior sociology major Rachel Kaufman believes that a lot of students still face the significant stresses that come with the pandemic, stating a lot of students have had to get jobs during this time as their parents lost jobs or they're having to pay to live off campus. Students, regardless of whether or not they pass-failed their prerequisites, are going into this semester at a deficit. While the pass-fail policy appears set in stone, there still seems to be a chance that it could revert back to what it was last spring. On Sunday, October 11th, Trinity announced that Courtney Balderas-Jacob, Assistant Director of the Dreamer Center at UTSA and Chief Operations Officer / co-owner of Float, a local spa, will be Trinity's new Director for Student Diversity and Inclusion. Balderas-Jacob's predecessor, Ali Roman, resigned last January, and the university has been without a head of a diversity and inclusion office ever since then. Trinity University has announced a new partnership with the San Antonio Independent School District to bring ground on welcoming students of all financial backgrounds. This partnership, titled the Trinity Community Investment, will meet SAISD's acceptees' full demonstrated financial need, capping loans at annual amounts of $3,500 for first years, $4,500 for sophomores, and $5,500 for future junior and seniors. Justin Doty, Dean of Admissions at Trinity, has stated that this is a huge win for the Trinity and for the district in San Antonio, SAISD, and most importantly, an enormous win for the students and parents in that district. What this is opening access financially to make a Trinity a much more financially feasible option for students in our own community. Doing so will bridge the gap between building equitable foundations for students and lead them on a different path to success. Well, speaking of the San Antonio Independent School District, our very own Danny Wen caught up with SAISD Superintendent Pedro Martinez. Take a look.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this very special interview on Newswave, Trinity University student news broadcast on campus station Tiger TV. My name is Danny Nguyen, class of 2024, and a proud alumnus of SAISD. And here with me today is the current superintendent of the San Antonio Independent School District, Superintendent Pedro Martinez. Mr. Superintendent, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Danny.
Alrighty, Mr. Superintendent. So COVID-19 has pushed people to quickly respond, to adapt, and to improve on many unprecedented changes to the way we work, we interact, and in this case, how we learn. So to you and to SISD, how has COVID-19 affected SISD in continuing its pursuit of giving students their best education possible? And what has SISD done to ensure that kids can go back to school in person in a safe and ensured manner?
Yeah, so first, one of the few things that have happened, as you know, the outbreak started after spring break, and it was very difficult because our district shut down, all the districts in the area had a shutdown, but we were able to distribute devices to all of our students. And so we've distributed over 40,000 devices. Our enrollment is about 48,000 children. So it was every student who needed them. We also got even iPads, in addition to Chromebooks, to the younger children. So I feel good that when we started this school year, everybody had a device. We distributed hotspots, over 10,000. And so we feel that there's been a digital divide in our community for decades. And so the one silver lining in this situation is that we've been able to partner with the city, the county, we've used our own resources, and we're now closing that divide in a very substantial way. The other thing we've done, Danny, is we we trained our 3,200 teachers. They came in a week before their contract started, and they did this voluntarily, by the way. And they got trained on our new application systems, including Canvas, which is the learning management system we're using. It's used by most universities and colleges. So it just makes sense for us because our goal, of course, is to have as many of our children have opportunities beyond high school, especially in college. And so our teachers created over 1 million lesson plans. And we've been supporting them and training them all along. It's still a challenge. We started our district in 100% remote because it just wasn't safe. We're now, as we speak today, we're now in our 10th week. We have about 25% of our children right now that are coming in person. And we were hoping that we would allow more children. We've been phasing them in slowly, but unfortunately, it looks like conditions are not getting safer. In fact, today, our nation almost hit a record in COVID cases. San Antonio's still been stable, but it's right now we're capping our in-person instruction to 25% of our enrollment.
On a more positive note, and as such, like, during the coronavirus pandemic, we really want to think about like the most positive things that we can. And what have you been most proud to see in the district and their employees?
So Danny, what I have seen is, first of all, our teachers have been amazing, and they our children, and I'm seeing them, and some of them, by the way, they don't work till 10 o'clock at night, even though I tell them, like, don't please, you need to rest, you need to take care of yourself. But they're so committed to reaching out to families, to talking to students. And for us, so that's one. I've just seen our staff, but our food service staff, when the pandemic started, we went to, we expanded to over 30 sites where they distributed 2 million meals. Between the spring break up to now, over 2 million meals to families. We created an SISD Eats program where our buses, and you can see that there's a sign, just like Uber Eats, where we deliver to apartment buildings in many parts of our district where families don't have cars, where they don't have the ability or don't feel safe to go outside. We partner with the city to, with our social workers and our counselors to make sure that any family who had COVID, we got them resources, financial resources, because we were worried about that maybe they're losing work, maybe they're in danger of being evicted. So I just been proud of the overall response that we've had, and everything we've seen from survey data, conversations with community leaders and staff. There's a certain amount of pride of how we reacted. And so even in this pandemic, I think one of the silver linings is that it's brought us together. It's brought us a lot closer together. And the only thing I'm doing now is I'm just reminding staff and our parents, let's play the long game. Let's not, this is not a sprint. It is a marathon. Hopefully it's a marathon that will hopefully only last this school year, but it is a marathon. And so that's our focus right now.
And as you know, like pandemic or no pandemic, we all, like as a business or as a person, we all try to progress and evolve and like be better, like improve. And to move on to different matters. So on the Bexar County ballot for this upcoming election is Bond 2020, which is the biggest SISD bond program in the last 2 decades with a record-breaking $1.3 billion. So what will this bond address if it's passed in this upcoming election?
So Danny, it's the biggest ballot question even for the city and county ever in the history. And so definitely in our history, it's the biggest. And I'll tell you what, one of the things that we're very blessed is that our tax base now, there's been enough investment in our community, including downtown, including on Broadway Street, that we can support these proposed bonds and any future bonds and not impact tax rates. So in other words, we can make sure that our taxpayers are not paying more taxes because of these bonds. And so for us, it's the most extensive bond ever. It would address 36 different facilities, including finishing out the high schools. By the way, Danny, you need to go to visit Brackenridge. We have about, I was just there not too long ago, and you can see, we're about to have staff switch from the old BRAC to the new BRAC with all the brand new classrooms. It's beautiful. I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, even the reception area looks completely different when you first enter. And so I want our families to go see them, but with this bond, we finish out the rest of BRAC. So in other words, with these current bonds that we have right now, the 2016 bond, they were too small to finish out all of the projects, including the high schools. And so with this 2020 bond that we're proposing, we finish out fields, gyms, we'd get any exterior buildings that are aside from the main campus. And so for us, it'll address that plus 21 projects, 21 facilities that have not been touched in at least 30 years. And so, and it's a complete renovation. So they include schools like the Young Women's Leadership Academy, who is a very successful school, our all-girls school, and one of the best in the state and in the country, but yet they have a facility that is just does not reflect their academics. Or Graebner Elementary School, it's our largest elementary school, pre-K to 5, 900 children. It's a school that doesn't have any windows, I think, and it was built during that time, and BRAC was the same way, right? That they were built without windows. So they're complete renovations of these schools. The other thing it would take care of, Danny, is AC issues across our schools. So any school who has an outdated AC system would get replaced. We'd also be providing in a second ballot question, and they have to be separated by law, technology for every single school. So every classroom will be updated with smart boards, sound systems. Every classroom would have a dedicated set of devices that our children can take home, that their parents could use. So our goal is that now that we've been forced to distribute devices to everybody, every child going forward should always have a device. They should always be able to take it home, have internet access. And so that's our goal. So with these 2 ballot questions, we can accomplish that. So one is for facilities, 1.21 billion with a B. And then the technology ballot question for 90 million for a total of 1.3. And like I said, the goal is it will not impact your tax rates for any of our taxpayers.
Wow. Well, that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you to Superintendent Pedro Martinez of the San Antonio Independent School District for being here. To the Trinity community and beyond, stay safe and stay healthy. This is Danny Nguyen, Newswave 14 reporting.
In other local SA news involving the coronavirus, while COVID-19 is still present in the United States, people are now more concerned that the flu season has also arrived. Now, many people are curious about one question: what's the difference between the flu and COVID-19? According to the CDC's report, the flu and COVID have many similar symptoms. Both may cause symptoms like fever, runny nose, and a headache. The difference is that, compared to the flu, COVID can also cause a loss of taste and smell. Under normal circumstances, a person will show symptoms within 1 or 4 days after contracting the flu. But with COVID, an infected person may show symptoms for a longer period of time, up to 14 days. According to the CDC report, based on current data, COVID has a higher fatality rate than the flu. For the public, one of the most important things to know is that the flu vaccine cannot prevent COVID-19. For those of you who are struggling to adjust to COVID-19 life on campus, have no fear. We are introducing a new segment called COVID Hacks, bringing college students tips and tricks for living and learning during a pandemic.
Hi everyone, Allison here to introduce you to our new series devoted to life hacks during the COVID-19 pandemic, where each week we will deliver topical tips for managing your life during the pandemic. This week we will provide 5 tips for maintaining a social life during COVID-19. Let's get going.
Welcome to our new normal, where most of us are living by ourselves or with family, where it can be hard, almost impossible, to maintain friendships and relationships while also staying safe and staying physically distant. Well, rest assured, I've gathered some practical tips to help ease some of these social struggles from various health organizations and students themselves.
Tip number 1, stay connected through video and phone calls. Texting and social media does not offer the same feeling of connectedness, so try to schedule phone calls or face-to-face video calls with friends or family. It will help you stay close and will give you something to look forward to on a daily basis. Tip number 2, schedule virtual date night. For those of you in socially distant relationships, try to schedule a Zoom date night. I know it sounds lame, but it doesn't have to just be a Netflix and chill night where you both stream the same show or movie. Try cooking a new recipe where you both turn on your Zoom cameras and cook at the same time in the kitchen. Once the food is ready, feel free to dress up. It's date night, and let's face it, if you look good, you feel good. Tip number 3, host a virtual game night. Set a date to play multiplayer games online with your friends. Some games I would suggest include Jackbox games such as Quiplash or Trivia Murder Party. All you need to play these games is a phone and your brain. Another popular suggestion that I've gathered from friends is the online game Among Us. Much like Werewolf, you figure out who among you is an imposter in outer space. If you play this game, I recommend using a voice app like Discord to talk with your group. Again, something to engage your friends beyond just looking at the screen to chat. Tip number 4, take a virtual gym class together. Most gym places are trying to stay afloat by offering virtual classes. Plus, most universities with a fitness club are providing workout videos for students. Help stay physically and mentally fit while also engaging with friends in a virtual gym class where you have your cameras on and can see each other's moves. Have fun with it. Take a dance class or yoga class where you and your friends are moving together. And finally, for tip number 5, if you do go out to eat, sit outside. For those of you who are itching to get out and away from the screens, try to go out to restaurants where outdoor seating is available. As long as you maintain your group size to under 10 people who are not sick, and only let the people who you see semi-regularly come, then you should be good to go out to any place with outdoor seating. Enjoy the nice fall weather with your closest friends.
These are just a few suggestions for making quarantine life more tolerable. More tips and tricks in the weeks to come, right here on Newswave. I've been Allison Carr, urging you to stay safe and stay healthy.
Less than 2 weeks from the 2020 election, President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden squared off in the final presidential debate of this year. The debate was hosted by Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee, with NBC News co-anchor Kristen Welker moderating. After a first rowdy debate with plenty of interruptions by both candidates, Welker was given the ability to mute each candidate's microphone. Although this was resulted in the debate with less interruptions, both candidates still went after one another, as can be expected in what has been a contentious general election. While debates can be known to sway the minds of undecided voters, millions of people have already voted across the country as a result of increased voting by mail and early voting in most states. Whether or not this debate had a big impact on the final tally will be hard to tell. Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd, and please, if you have not already, vote. Struggling to get in touch with your green thumb during COVID-19? Our very own Daniela John has 3 easy tips to help you grow your own apartment garden.
I'm Daniela John, and here are 3 ways to grow your apartment garden. Plants clean the air, bring life into any space, and make great friends. My first tip is finding plants that enjoy the type of light you have. My apartment has no west or north facing windows, so we find plants that like low or indirect light, such as an elephant bush or a red waffle plant. Understanding what light or watering your plant needs is essential for its happiness. However, my second tip is to not fear the death of your plant. It happens. Maybe it's too much water, not enough light, or just the end of the plant's season, like my mint plant. With death brings new life and more spaces to repot. My final tip is to shop smart. Buy pots that have 2 to 3 individual plants. One plant easily turns into 3 with more space to grow larger. Further, don't be afraid to propagate. My roommates and I took leaves from a succulent by Trinity's Community Garden, let them callus and grow roots on a plate of soil, and now have over 10 baby succulents. A pothos is also a really easy plant to propagate. Cut off some stems, stick it in water, and you can easily have a dozen pothos ready to go. These are just a few ways you can see your small apartment garden turn into a flourishing forest.
The largest pumpkin in North America has just been crowned. Here's CNN with more on the Tiger King pumpkin.
They say there's a tree in every seed. But when Travis Ginger planted one 6 months ago, little did he know it would turn into a whole lot of pumpkin.
You can only hope. I mean, we had never guessed when we started this spring that we were going to have the biggest in North America.
After months of tending to his garden, of watering his big baby, hoping for warmer, better conditions.
One time it got down to 21 degrees out.
He and his prized orange jewel walked away with a title one can only earn.
Grand Champion Grower 2020, Half Moon Bay.
Named Tiger King after her orange hue and now faded white stripes, the greatest pumpkin from the Halloween capital of the world sits at 2,350 pounds. Ginger's love of big gourds, though, a longer history than any vine.
Yeah, this thing was growing really well. I mean, upwards of 250 pounds a week. I think it was like 1,200 and some odd pounds already taping. Well, I had a vine rot and it kind of went down after that, but it still ended right around 1,300 pounds. But for that time, that was pretty good.
As a gardener, as someone who plants hope, Ginger wasn't one to give up And this year was the year, sticking with his tradition of saving an element of surprise.
Growers thought I was crazy just to rally out there without putting it on a scale, and I've done it before. It just kind of wrecks the fun.
The fun likely to double when you turn out to be world champion.
It was 6 months of work coming down to one final, what does this scale read number? And I was just relieved when it said 2350. I was like, hey, I'll take that all day long.
Sharon Yu, Carol 11 News, Anoka.
We won, and that's all that we wanted.
Halloween is getting closer every day, and this Halloween, various Trinity organizations on campus are trying to get into the spooky spirit with Halloween-themed events while still making sure it's safe to attend. Trinity Coatney proposed mailing craft kits to students so that tradition could be held virtually. Lembeck explains that the club sent pots and painting supplies to students so that everyone could make their pot look like a pumpkin. That way, we could bring the Trinity community better together, regardless of whether or not you were on campus. At the same time, Student Programming's Board Traditions team will safely host an in-person screening of Hocus Pocus on the Jim Potter intramural field to fill in the gaps in our Halloween celebrations this year. Resident assistants from both Herndon and Beasy are planning on what's called a Spooky Fest, where residents can pin the tail on the clown, participate in a costume contest, or be wrapped up in toilet paper at the party and go as a mummy instead. Well, that's all the time we have this week. Make sure to tune into Newswave every Friday at 2:30 p.m. on our Vimeo and YouTube channels. I've been Devin Karp, and we'll see you right back here next week.